What up racer, ItsJerone here and welcome back to another league racing video. Today it is time for the 5th round of the AOR season and we are here in the desert underneath the floodlights of the Kingdom of Bahrain. It will be a 100% race around the short layout of this track. Even though the lap times are sub 1 minute, this will most likely still be the longest race of the season because we have 57 laps, so the race will nearly be an hour long. I quite like the regular track and I'm usually especially strong around sector 2, but that's unfortunately exactly the sector that's been cut out of the short track, so it will be exciting to see how that one works out for me. Looking at the standings though, I'm in 7th place and Jack Lade is leading the championship with Basti and Tin Can behind. And of course I'm looking forward to move up the standings in the upcoming races. I'll try to stay consistent, score good points, and I'll see where I finish up in the end. Of course, selecting the softest set of tires. I want to do 3 runs in qualifying. I want to save 1 set of tires for the race, just in case some late safety car drama comes out, then I can still bolt on a set of new soft tires. Coming into this race I had some setup issues because basically the setup I would have liked to use in qualifying was too unstable for the race, but the setup I wanted to use for the race was then just too slow in qualifying, so I was a bit torn between what to do, and in the end I decided to go with mostly a race setup, so it would probably lose me around a 10th in qualifying, so not exactly ideal. But coming into this I of course did first banker run, which put me in 10th place, but that was of course quite a slow lap. And the good thing of this track is that you can actually do 2 qualifying runs on the same set of tires, because you quite easily have enough fuel and it's of course very short to make it around the track. And basically the second banker lap on first set of tires put me in P2 for the moment, but of course that got beat quite easily again. So this is my second run, and unfortunately I invalidate coming into the final corner, but that of course also invalidates the next lap, and I decided to do a really slow lap, save a lot of fuel, and as you can see, starting this second lap I only have 1.3 laps of fuel to play around with, and of course I have to do an in lap again. So I did improve my time on this lap. As you can see, I'm 1/10 up coming into the final corner, braking just after the 100 meters, but unfortunately I get a big snap oversteer, and at this moment I have to decide whether I come into the pits, because as you can see I only have 0.2 laps of fuel. And because I was improving I decided to stay out, and as you can see I improve with approximately half a tenth. But as you can see I'm basically out of fuel now, so I had to drive this lap at absolute snail speed back into the pit lane, which meant I couldn't do 2 runs on my final set of tires I wanted to use for this qualifying session. So on that last lap, on the last timed lap, I had essentially driven 5 laps on the tire: an out lap, a fast lap, a slow lap, a fast lap and an in lap. So that means that if I want to start on the freshest tire possible I have to improve my lap here. And as you can see I just mess up my turn-in points really, and braking point as well, which means I am now 3/10 down on my time. I do a 0.8 first sector where you ideally want to do a 0.5 or a high 0.4. So I really have to make up a lot of time if I want to start on this set of tires. Only 2 corners remaining, so trying to get a good exit here, and as you can see the time is coming down a bit, and let's see if I can make up 2/10 in the final corner. Remember I did have a snap of oversteer coming out of the final corner last time, and as you can see the delta is coming down, but it's not enough, and it's only a 0.2, whereas my previous lap was a 0.1, which means I will now have to start on 5 laps old tires. And well, basically tradition with me, my qualifying is just very poor, but this was a really poor one. Fortunately though, with that half a tenth improvement I had, I went from P11 to P7 in the end. So it's not the end of the world. I would have liked to qualify higher, of course, but I guess we'll just see what we can do in the race. When it comes to the strategy front here, there are 2 good strategies you can do. You can do a 1-stop or you can do a 2-stop. It really doesn't matter too much race time wise, but I decided I wanted to do a 1-stop, and of course just adding a bit of extra fuel. But one thing I forgot to do, I wanted to increase my off-throttle differential by 2%. It's now on 54%, and I wanted to put it on 56% because it's more stable for the race. But since I forgot, I will most likely have to deal with quite a bit of oversteer in this race, which is not ideal. But now the 5 red lights are coming on. Tin Can in front of us, Pyro next to us, George behind us, but Tin Can just gets a really poor start, so I have to move around him immediately. But we do make up a position coming into turn 1, choosing the outside line, as now Pyro comes across us a little bit, so I have to take a little bit of avoiding action, as we now have Ralph on our inside. And now it will be a drag race down this straight to see who will be able to maintain this 6th place. Ralph is still on our outside, and turning in, we give her the big squeeze to the outside because I want to stay ahead, since it will most likely be a DRS train, and I am able to defend my position for now. So that's 1 place gained so far, but as you can see, already 13-14% on the tire wear only on lap 1, where if you would have done only 1 or 2 laps on your qualifying tires, you would most likely be somewhere around 8 or 9% right now. So essentially I'm probably at a 5% disadvantage in comparison to the rest of the field at this moment. So for this first stage I will just have to hold on basically, but as you can see from my ERS percentage on the bottom right, it just goes down every single lap. So that really shows that my pace was not very good at this moment. But then as you can see, coming into lap 7, a safety car gets deployed, which was quite good for me because I was really struggling to keep up with the cars ahead, and this of course allows me to save a bit of fuel, save a bit of tires. Ideally I would have liked to go on the mediums this lap, because of course you lose less time with a pit stop during the safety car, but my teammate Zach was ahead of me, and that means I couldn't go into the pit lane because of course double stacking loses you way more time than just staying out. So it's only our pole sitter Pedro and Pyro who started next to me, myself, and then OJD Gaming and Jack Ladis who stayed out on these tires. So coming onto the restart, I get quite a good launch, I must say. We are going from lap 10 into lap 11 now, but I wasn't really planning on fighting Pyro, just due to my race pace on the previous 10 laps, so decided to just stay behind. As you can see, unfortunately Jack Ladis loses the position to OJD Gaming, as now Pyro just completely loses it on the colder tires.
Yep, loosey-goosey.
Exactly, a loosey-goosey rear for him, and to be honest my rear was also quite loosey-goosey during this race, as I said, due to not adjusting my off-throttle differential.
This is going to go right up to the line there. If I get a 5-second penalty for that, oh my god, he's gone now. Yeah, oh my god!
So that was on board with the Haas car of Jack Ladis, and that's how he got his 5-second penalty. But unfortunately, due to Pyro spinning ahead of us, there's immediately an air gap between myself and Pedro. So for the upcoming laps, until the DRS gets enabled, I had to use a lot of ERS. As you can see, I'm already in the 20% range basically of my battery, so that was not very optimal. And ItsJerone Gaming was also faster than us, and he was able to catch us quite quickly. But now in lap 16, as we come to the second corner of the track, I have a massive lockup, which puts me under pressure from OJD, but fortunately he doesn't decide to go for the move, as I use a lot of ERS to stay ahead for the moment. But then coming onto the main straight, as you can see, I'm running in single digits of the battery, and now OJD Gaming is going down our inside, going into turn 2 side by side, but I do decide to let him go because, well, I just didn't have the pace basically at this point. And now, because I also had a bad run out of the second corner again on this lap, Jack Ladies can go down our inside on the alternative strategy. So at this moment I just thought, well, let's just try to hold on to DRS range until the pit window basically. My ideal pit lap was lap 22, I think, and that's also what I was aiming to do, as I get my second warning of the race unfortunately already. But unfortunately also in front, OJD and Pyro are fighting really hard, which is not very good for our race, because collectively we have to try and get away from the hard runners of Terror Racer, of Pasty, who all pit under the safety car. And for us collectively it is of course a lot better when we can all pull away together from the group behind, because after our pit stop we will go on a softer set of tires, and that's when we have to make up the time to all the drivers that pit under the first safety car. So at this moment in my head I was thinking, I am just going to pit when somebody else pits as well. Coming on to lap 23, our tire indicator has come on, and as you can see OJD Gaming comes in the pit, and that was the call for me to also come into the pit lane. So we follow him in, and coming out then, let's see where we are. We are currently in 11th place, and what is Ralph doing here in front of us? I really wasn't sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure what even happened, if she was still in control of her car at that point or not, but it did kind of scare me, and I think it lost both me and OJD a bit of time. As you can see, we are exactly 1 second behind OJD, and now it is of course crucial to stay within the 1 second window to OJD Gaming. And of course we want to use quite a lot of ERS on our outlap, because we want to try and undercut Pedro, who will most likely be coming in on the next few laps. So I did manage to stay within 1 second as I turn in too quickly. New tires, of course, you have to adjust your turn-in points a bit again. But now, as you can see on board with Jack Ladies again, Pedro was just staying out for a long time. And even coming onto lap 27 now, he was still within DRS range, so he just decided to use Jack's pace for as long as possible until his tires really dropped off. So this is coming on to lap 28, and as you can see, Pedro in the red Ferrari comes out of the garage only marginally behind us. So he is now on 4 lap fresher tires than me and OJD, so he has really made that overcut work, as I didn't really decide to fight with OJD in the meantime, just wanted to save the battery for a bit. But then the end of lap 29, Pedro on his fresher tires, really close, only 2/10 behind, so I wanted to get a car between me and Pedro, and that has to be OJD of course. So using a lot of ERS here down the main straight, and as I look behind me, OJD moves over a bit, and that could have ended a lot worse if he actually pulled over a bit more, but fortunately it doesn't end up in tears and we take the lead for now. But as I said, I basically wanted to use OJD as a sort of shield to protect me from Pedro at this stage, but clearly OJD is thinking something else, as he did go for the move again down our inside, but we managed to hold it around the outside and keep 8th place for the moment. But all this fighting is of course not ideal for our race, because we still have one bigger objective, and that is catching up to the hard runners and perhaps some 2-stop runners. And of course when you fight you lose time, so I actually was willing to spend quite a lot of ERS to drag us along, but clearly OJD Gaming had different ideas and he wanted to overtake me again, which now also leaves me vulnerable to Pedro again. So clearly OJD wanted to have the lead of this train, and from this moment on I just decided not to fight him anymore. But coming on to the end of the lap, Pedro is really close again and decides to actually go for the move. So I just let that happen, and in my head I thought, well, maybe OJD doesn't want me to lead, but surely he wants to let Pedro lead, because his tires are 4 laps younger than ours, and therefore he should also have better pace than us. But as you will see in the upcoming few moments, OJD defends quite hard, defends the inside, so Pedro couldn't go down the inside. And then also on the straight you can see he really defends the inside, then squeezes Pedro all the way to the edge of the track round the outside, and as they go side by side Pedro does manage to get the position. But then coming onto the main straight again, you can see they're starting to fight yet again. And this is of course really not good for our race. This of course hurts the collective attempt, or what we should have attempted collectively, to try to catch up to all the medium runners that pit under the first safety car. But then lap 33, Jack came out of the pit lane after serving his 5-second time penalty during his stop, and he only came 5 seconds behind us. And that's of course not good, because, well, Jack was on relatively 25 lap older tires than us, and essentially we have done the same pace as him due to all the fighting, as now OJD goes down the inside of Pedro, misses the corner completely. Also Jack on his fresh soft tires goes down our inside, didn't want to defend there because he was going to get past anyway, as now OJD also tries to squeeze Jack a bit to the side of the edge of the track, but didn't really work out. In the meanwhile, between lap 33 and 39, which we are on now, I think OJD and Pedro swapped positions twice more, and as a result of that you can see the red light of OJD is flashing, which means he is below 10% of his ERS, and that means he is now quite vulnerable to us. As we use quite a lot of ERS, I wanted to get past now. He defends the inside, then weaves double a bit, but in the end I decided to go down the inside, but it was a very half-hearted and weak move by me. Yeah, that was not a good move, but of course the most important thing is not to get damage. So we go again, next lap. This time hopefully I get a bit better exit. As you can now also see, OJD Gaming has lost DRS range to Pedro, and for my race I really wanted to stay with Jack and Pedro. So going past OJD now, going into lap 41, we get the move done quite easily on the main straight. But now watch the bottom left, you can see yellow flags called out, the white arrow moving to the left, and that's OJD losing it on the traction, crashing into the wall, and we have another safety car. And to be honest, I think this safety car really bails us out, because we can now bolt on a completely fresh set which we saved in qualifying, and we will be in a very good position to try and make up some positions for the end of the race on this fresh set of soft tires that we will have. So coming into the pits, Pedro goes into the pits as well, of course. George had to serve a 5-second penalty in the Renault, and as you can see, coming out of our pit box, we were ghosting inside George, and fortunately for me, the game allowed me to go ahead of George, so that's one position gained during the pit stop phase. And as you can see, Jack was the only one who continued, and Pasty going on to a fresh set of mediums, with Terror Racer as well going on to softs, and Solid Ninja Snake is also ahead of us on softs. But as you can see, the safety car this time restarted the lap earlier, and I didn't really do my tire warming properly this time, which means my tires are below 80 degrees, where you ideally wanted to have them at least 85 degrees. But now Jack slowed everyone up really quite a lot, and that was a very bad restart for me. So I have to use a lot of ERS now to defend from George, go defensive a little bit, but he doesn't decide to go down our inside. So we managed to hold 7th position now, and we should be in a very good position, as now Simu gets a bad exit on medium tires, and we use a lot of ERS. Pulled to the inside of the track, of course, still have to use a lot of ERS to actually get ahead of Simu into the braking zone, as we give Solid Ninja a little love tap on the rear. But that of course has allowed Simu to get back at us, and this set of corners, I never really nailed them. Even at the end of the race, I didn't feel very comfortable around that set of corners. But then onto the second straight, just using my ERS to my advantage to get ahead of Simu, who fortunately recognized the fact that I was just much faster and allowed me to get through. Now skipping all the way to lap 54 though, as I make quite a bad mistake. This is the lap where I ideally wanted to start to set up an attack on Solid Ninja Snake. I've been saving quite a lot of ERS over the last 10 laps I didn't show. So this is of course the time where we have to make our ERS and tire advantage work. Little fake to the inside, but of course not gonna do actual move there. Got quite a good exit coming onto the main straight, using a lot of my ERS, because it's of course very hard to get past in a DRS train as we go down the inside of the racing point of Solid Ninja Snake, and we get that position. So we are now up into 5th place, as we are all very close together. You can literally see P1 is only less than 2 seconds up the road. So now, coming onto the last lap after this corner, let's try to get a very good exit to potentially attack Pasty, but this time my exit was not as good as the previous time. And we are also draining our ERS quite quickly, as now Pasty goes for a move on Pedro. We fake a move to the inside, which scared Pedro off a little bit, but unfortunately I was nowhere near enough to make a good dive bomb. But then I lock up, I understeer off the track a bit, which causes me to have a very poor exit, and that allows Solid Ninja Snake back into the fight again, as he now uses a lot of his ERS, tries to go down our inside, but I think we leave him just about enough room, although I perhaps could have left him a little bit more room looking in hindsight. But he also acknowledged after the race that it was more of a racing incident. He also locked up his tires, so no harm's done. None of us spin out in the end, so that's of course good, as Terror Racer in the Haas in the lead crosses the checkered flag in 1st place, and we finish the race in a 5th place. And to be honest, that is, or I would say that's a very good result for me, considering I was quite off the pace, had to use a lot of ERS throughout the whole race to just stay within DRS range. And when you just get P5 in such a long race, when you have quite bad race pace, then I guess that can be considered a good result. So kept it clean, and of course a massive GG's to the top 3 who drove brilliantly. So that's the end of the race, quite a hectic one. 2 safety cars with really a lot of mixed strategies all the way through the race. And as I said, finishing P5, I think it was a very good result for me. If you did enjoy the video, then I would really appreciate it if you could hit the like button, and then I would like to see you for the next race, which will be in 2 weeks, since we have a break week coming up. But thanks for watching, and bye bye.